My name is Gloria, and I'm 33 years old. 2 years ago, I married my husband, Andy. We live together in an apartment and share the household chores. I once believed we could have a happy married life, but after the wedding, reality fell short of my expectations. I anticipated that Andy and I would have different values but would gradually adjust to each other's perspectives. However, the real issue turned out to be my mother-in-law. It started during the first month of our marriage. One morning, as I was heading out to work, my mother-in-law unexpectedly showed up at our home. She asked me, "What are you doing up so early? Where are you going, Gloria?" When I told her I was going to work, she looked at me in disbelief and said, "You're married now. What are you thinking? Go back to bed." Her reaction stunned me. Instead of offering any support, Andy said, "I'm going to be late for work. See you later," and left me to handle the situation alone. I was at a loss but told my mother-in-law that I needed to go to work too. She responded with, "Are you serious? You're a wife now. Your duty is to stay at home and support your husband. Trust him to take care of things." She blocked my path at the door, continuously interrupting me as I tried to leave. I said, "I'm sorry, but I really have to go. Please just use the key and put it in the mailbox when you leave." Reluctantly, she took the key, and I managed to get to work. However, I made a mistake by allowing her to stay in our home that day. When I returned from work, my mother-in-law was still there. As soon as I walked in, she ordered me to sit down. With a stern look, she began lecturing me on what a wife should be like, repeating the same old values. Andy arrived home midway through the lecture, but by then, the damage had already been done. She made Andy sit down too and said, "You're the husband, so show some dignity. If your wife does whatever she wants, your family will fall apart." Andy kept apologizing to his mother, and I couldn't understand why he was so weak when it came to her. Times have changed, and my mother-in-law's old-fashioned values are her own. They don't concern us. Yet she showed up early in the morning, interfering in our lives, and even wanted me to quit my job. There was no reason for me to obey her, but it made me uncomfortable that Andy would always do as she said. After my mother-in-law left, I complained to Andy, "Why do you always listen to your mother? She's just forcing her idea of a perfect family on us. It's not right to be controlled like this." But Andy seemed to have always been weak against his mother. "I'm sorry, but I can't resist as she insists. Can't you just do what Mom says, just this once?" "That's impossible. You know how important my job is. Next time your mother comes over, I won't let her into the house." "No, you can't do that. Mom will get angry and blame me for not being able to control my wife." Andy's words made me angry again. "But it's true, isn't it? We're in this mess because you never stand up to your mother. Can you at least talk to your father and get him to make her stop?" "But Mom doesn't listen to Dad either, so..." "See, don't you see that your mother is full of contradictions? She said that if a wife does whatever she wants, the family will fall apart. But I thought to myself, she's the one actually causing the family to break down." When I said that, my husband got upset and glared at me, which was rare for him. "Don't speak badly about my mom," he said. I replied, "If you can stand up to me like that, I hope you'll show some strength in front of your mother too." But I knew it was my choice to marry Andy, and despite everything, I still loved him. So I decided to try harder to get along with my mother-in-law. Before Andy, all my previous boyfriends were bossy and controlling. I had many bad experiences with them. That's why I thought Andy, who was quiet and gentle, would make me happy. But in reality, he was too passive and unreliable, which became a problem. Still, I believed I could change the situation if I put in the effort. Since then, I've been trying to do both my housework and job perfectly. Yet my mother-in-law would still come over and complain, saying things like, "Aren't you neglecting the housework because you're working?" One day, I asked her to look around the house and said, "What do you think? I'm doing a good job with the housework, aren't I? Is there anything more I need to do?" She made a frustrated face and replied, "Isn't Andy helping you?" She then glared at Andy, and he turned pale, shaking his head quickly. He has never lied to his mother, so she believes everything he says. In reality, I do make Andy help with the housework, but we keep it a secret from her. My mother-in-law doesn't seem to notice at all. However, when we first got married, Andy didn't know how to do any housework at all. So I took it upon myself to teach Andy how to do housework. As my mother-in-law put on her shoes to leave, she said in frustration, "Even if it's fine now, it won't last." I'll get proof, I swear. I thought to myself, she's so persistent. I planned to just continue with our way of doing things. But my mother-in-law still showed up randomly every week, being a constant nuisance. Hey, this corner is too dusty. See, I knew it. You're not doing enough housework because you're working. Quit your job and take care of the house. This went on for 2 years. To be honest, I was getting tired of this marriage. It was stressful having her come over to check on the housework, rummaging through the fridge and even the wardrobe. It was driving me crazy. One day, she came over as usual and started going through the fridge. What? You don't have anything in here. You can't even cook a decent meal for Andy. Quit your job already. Just then, Andy came home, carrying big shopping bags in both hands. The timing couldn't have been worse. My mother-in-law was shocked to see him and immediately made a fuss. My God, Gloria, what were you thinking? Making your husband help with the housework? I replied, with all due respect, this is normal nowadays. Families with old-fashioned ideas like yours are becoming less common. My mother-in-law's face turned red, and she started yelling, You do whatever you want and mess everything up. It's disgusting. And you too, Andy. Why do you let her do this? Man up. Andy's face turned pale. He put the shopping bags on the floor, rolled his shoulders, and stayed silent. I thought to myself, he really is a pathetic guy. Then I finally spoke back to my mother-in-law in a firm tone. I've been thinking about this for a long time, but isn't this behavior rude? Andy and I are equals in this marriage. We treat each other with respect and have decided not to put the burden on either side. And I will continue to work, even if we have children. So I taught Andy how to do housework myself. As my mother-in-law was putting on her shoes to leave, she said in frustration, Even if things are okay now, it won't last. I'll find proof, I swear. I thought, she's so persistent. I was ready to continue our way, but my mother-in-law kept showing up at random times each week, being a real nuisance. Hey, this corner is too dusty. I knew it, you're not doing enough housework because you're working. Quit your job and take care of the house. This continued for 2 years, and honestly, I was getting fed up with the marriage. It was stressful having her come over, check the housework, and even go through the fridge and wardrobe. I wondered how much more of this I could take. One day, she came over and started rummaging through the fridge. What? You don't have anything in here. You can't even cook a decent meal for Andy. Quit your job already. Just then, Andy came home with big shopping bags in each hand. The timing was terrible. My mother-in-law was shocked to see him and started making a fuss. My God, Gloria, what were you thinking? Making your husband help with the housework? I replied, with all due respect, this is normal nowadays. Families with old-fashioned ideas like yours are becoming less common. Her face turned red, and she yelled, You do whatever you want and mess everything up. Disgusting. And you too, Andy. Why do you let her do this? Man up. Andy turned pale, put the shopping bags on the floor, rolled his shoulders, and stayed silent. I thought, he really is pathetic. I then spoke back to my mother-in-law with a strong tone. I've been thinking about this for a long time, but isn't this behavior rude? Andy and I are equals in this marriage. We treat each other with respect and have decided not to place the burden on either side. I will continue to work, even if we have children. Then, with a blank expression on my face, I told her the truth. I'm going back to work after my maternity leave. What? She said, shocked. You're not just saying that to surprise me, are you? No, I'm not. Also, after I return to work, Andy is going to quit his job. We've decided that he will become a full-time stay-at-home father. Huh? What nonsense are you talking about? You're a mother, and you don't want to raise your own children. Well, my income is higher than Andy's. Of course, I'll support him while I work. We both agreed that it would be better for our children. At that moment, my mother-in-law began to tremble. She turned to me, her face filled with anger like I had never seen before. Impossible. That's unforgivable. I didn't raise Andy to be unhappy. I will make sure he divorces you for sure, she shouted before storming out of the apartment as if she were running away. When Andy came home from work, he had a grim look on his face. Mom was so annoying. She called me while I was at work, saying what we decided was wrong. I don't know what she'll do. She might do something crazy. Gloria, why don't you go back to your parents' house for a while and have the twins there? It was rare for Andy to suggest something, even when he proposed to me. I remember how he showed me the engagement ring while trembling and couldn't even say, "Will you marry me?" I appreciated his kindness and courage, so I agreed. "All right, I'll take your advice and do that." I told my parents about the situation and decided to have the babies in my hometown. While I was there, I called Andy every day. I remember the time when Andy and I were dating. We didn't see each other very often, so we used to call each other just like this. Now, even though things were tense, hearing his voice brought back those memories. My mother-in-law was still furious and even showed up with divorce papers. But Andy reassured her that he would never divorce me. He even made another suggestion that helped me feel more at ease. It was an incredibly tough time, but Andy held my hand and kept my spirits up the whole way. Eventually, I gave birth to our baby girls. Andy stayed at my parents' house with me until things settled down. After a while, he returned to our apartment on his own. Not long after, I received a phone call from my mother-in-law. "Hello, Gloria. Only Andy came back, and he didn't say anything about you. You're not planning to come back here, are you?" she asked, clearly irritated. "I'm coming home tomorrow with the babies," I replied. "No, don't come back. I don't want to see your face. You and Andy are getting a divorce anyway. Why don't you just stay with your parents? Andy went there to talk about the divorce, right?" she said, sounding excited. I chuckled and responded, "Please don't worry, but I don't think Andy will be seeing you anymore." There was a brief pause before she replied, "What? What are you talking about? Haven't you heard from Andy? It means that you and Andy are no longer mother and son. He went back to the apartment first to pack. We're moving out tomorrow." "Haven't you noticed any moving boxes?" "No, I haven't seen anything like that. The room looks clean, but that's because Andy worked so hard to clean it," she said, sounding confused. Then I faintly heard Andy's voice in the background, as if the call was on speaker. His voice became clearer. "Sorry, Gloria. I didn't expect Mom to call you." "It's okay, don't worry about it," I said. "How's the packing going?" "Yeah, almost done. I thought it would be troublesome if Mom came and made a fuss," he replied. "So I sealed the boxes and closed them up." "Wow, that's great," I said. "I'm sorry I made you do all that." As we were talking, my mother-in-law suddenly started yelling. "What the hell are you talking about? Andy, don't tell me you're moving and cutting ties with me." I was about to explain when Andy interrupted. "No, you shut up, Mom. I've had enough. All you do is impose your own rules on us, and you don't realize how much trouble you're causing. I'm sick of it. That's why we've decided to cut ties with you. And when did you even make a duplicate key without our permission? Give it to me so I can return it to the management company." Andy's words stunned his mother. "What, Andy? You're divorcing Gloria, and now you're saying this to me? Divorce? I never said I'm divorcing Gloria. She earns more than me, and she's already explained that if she became a housewife, we couldn't have a stable family. The girls would have to sacrifice too much." My mother-in-law, still in shock, replied, "But it's just one income. Gloria's father and brother may run a company, but what does that have to do with her?" I finally spoke up. "I didn't tell you because I knew you'd make a big fuss. I work for my brother's company. He's starting another business soon, and I'm supposed to take over his company." "Huh? You mean a woman will be the president?" she asked, incredulous. "Yes, the president," I confirmed. "But for now, I'm more focused on supporting the company. I'll return to work after my maternity leave. I think we've talked about this before. I had told her this during our wedding planning, but it seemed she had forgotten. My mother-in-law was stunned into silence and didn't know how to respond for a long time. Then Andy spoke up. "Oh, by the way, Barry works for Gloria's brother's company. With your attitude, what do you think will happen to him?" Barry is Andy's second brother and a sales manager at my brother's company. I had met Barry at the wedding and found out he was Andy's brother. My mother-in-law's voice trembled as she said, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. Please don't fire Barry. He's struggling with 3 kids right now." I almost laughed. "No, I can't just fire an employee because of a threat. But really, please stop interfering in our family." "Well, we're cutting ties with you anyway, so it doesn't matter," she said, still ranting. Barry seemed to have forcefully ended the call. The next day, my parents dropped me off at our new house with the twins. The movers had already finished setting up the furniture and unpacking the boxes, and my parents helped organize everything. Shortly after, my father-in-law arrived. After Andy cut off contact with my mother-in-law, my father-in-law decided to distance himself from her as well. My mother-in-law's old-fashioned values had affected not just Andy but also my father-in-law and his two brothers. It seemed the entire family was dealing with the fallout just as we were. Andy, who had always been the quietest and most obedient to his mother, finally stood up to her. One by one, the sons declared their separation from her. My father-in-law also left the house and is now preparing for divorce with a lawyer. My mother-in-law has been abandoned by all her family members. Andy quit his job and has been dedicated to taking care of the twins, while I continue to work hard every day. Considering our children's future expenses, it's better for me to work than for Andy to. No matter what anyone says, I will respect the decision Andy and I made as a couple. We are committed to building our own happy family. Thank you for watching until the end. Please subscribe to our channel if you liked the video. See you in the next one. Thank you. Christopher, you're a disgrace to this family. Leave, you're not wanted here. Those cutting words pierced through the air, spat by my own father amidst the celebration of my brother Alex's wedding. The humiliation stung deeper as Alex remained silent, a silent accomplice to my expulsion. Anger boiled within me, ready to storm out when a plea for help interrupted my departure. A staff member, desperate in a moment of crisis, sought my aid. In that unexpected turn, my father saw me for who I truly was, and it jolted him. My name is Christopher, one of two brothers in our family. Growing up, our father, a stern lawyer, favored Alex, leaving me to perpetually chase his shadow. No moment of leisure existed in our lives. Every second was dedicated to lessons and studying. Even the simple joy of playing with friends was a luxury denied. Despite my relentless efforts to meet my father's lofty standards and match Alex's achievements, I perpetually felt inadequate, a constant disappointment to my father. The pivotal moment arrived with the entrance exam for a prestigious school, a futile attempt to win my father's approval. When I inevitably failed, my father's silence towards me solidified, his attention solely on Alex and my mother. Left to navigate the shadows of neglect, I found solace in my mother's unwavering support. But the ache persisted, exacerbated by Alex's indifference. Determined to forge my own path, I departed silently after high school, leaving only a note for my mother. Striking out on my own, I secured a job at a hotel where I could both work and live. It was there, amidst the bustling corridors and transient guests, that I found the freedom and fulfillment that eluded me at home. I get to focus on what I need to do, Christopher. Another mistake? How many times do I have to tell you? I'm sorry, I'll fix it right away. Get it together, Christopher. Michael, the hotel manager, was relentless in his expectations. As a mere high school graduate thrust into the real world, I constantly found myself on the receiving end of his reprimands. Yet, amidst the criticism, I persisted, striving to prove myself in this unfamiliar terrain. Unlike my father's harshness, Michael's feedback was constructive. His praise, when earned, fueled my determination to excel. A significant moment etched itself into my memory at the dawn of the new year, the busiest time for the hotel. After completing the requisite training, I was entrusted to work independently. That year, the influx of guests seemed greater than ever, stretching our resources to their limits. The chaos of serving dinner guests, either in the bustling dining hall or through room service, reached fever pitch. Despite being a novice, I tackled my duties with fervor, aware that my learning curve came at the expense of the hotel's smooth operation. Then, a minor crisis struck on New Year's Day. A colleague fell ill, leaving us short-staffed. I doubled down on my efforts, pushing myself beyond the mandated hours to keep the hotel afloat. Just when it seemed we had weathered the storm, disaster struck. The kitchen sink's pipe burst amidst the dinner rush, plunging us into chaos. With no plumber available on New Year's Day, the situation grew dire. Michael's frustration mirrored the mounting tension. In a moment of desperation, I stepped forward. Michael, can I try fixing the plumbing? I'll sort it out. Though met with skepticism, my offer was our only hope. With a hesitant nod, Michael relented, allowing me to take charge. Unbeknownst to many, my time at a science-focused high school had equipped me with a unique set of skills, including rudimentary plumbing knowledge. Drawing on this background, I set to work. Half an hour later, the once flooded kitchen was restored to order, the crisis averted through a combination of determination and unexpected expertise. I had somehow managed to fix the pipe, I announced breathlessly to Michael. He rushed over, turning the faucet with eager anticipation. Water gushed forth, a testament to my makeshift repair. The room erupted in smiles and praise. "Great job, Christopher. You're my pride and joy," Michael declared, his words washing over me with warmth. Growing up under Michael's guidance had been a revelation. Together, we navigated the challenges of New Year's Day at the hotel, emerging victorious. The sense of fulfillment I experienced that day left an indelible mark, shaping the person I am today. 15 years flew by, and I found myself fully immersed in my role at the hotel. Then, one day, a letter arrived from Mom, breaking the silence that had settled between us. It bore news of Alex's impending marriage. Though I had drifted apart from Dad and Alex, Mom's plea for my presence at the wedding tugged at my heartstrings. Reluctantly, I agreed to attend. The venue, a luxurious hotel, mirrored Alex and Dad's penchant for extravagance. As I arrived, clad in a trusty suit, I couldn't shake the feeling of being out of place amidst the elite gathering. Perhaps Alex's bride, a woman of impeccable grace, was a product of Dad's networking or a strategic alliance. In the waiting room, surrounded by faces of high society, I found myself an outsider, observing from the periphery. With no one to engage, I became a silent observer, watching the intricate dance of privilege and power unfold before me. As I locked eyes with two familiar faces, a sense of unease settled within me. His expression was unmistakably displeased. Dad and Alex approached, their presence looming over me. "Why are you here?" Dad's voice, deep and commanding, echoed through the air, stirring memories long buried. "Is it so wrong to celebrate Alex's wedding?" "Oh, by the way, congrats, Alex," I replied, trying to diffuse the tension. Alex's response was muted, his conflicted expression betraying the strain of our family dynamics. "What have you been up to all these years?" "No doubt some worthless job," and his words cut through the air like a knife, his disdain palpable. "Christopher, you shouldn't be here," he continued, his tone dripping with contempt. Mom rushed over, attempting to intercede. "Come on, Christopher is here to celebrate. No need to be so harsh," she pleaded, her desperation evident. But her efforts were futile, drowned out by Dad's unwavering judgment. "Enough, Mom," Dad asserted, his voice a thunderous decree. "Christopher, let me make this clear. You're a disgrace. I don't want you ruining Alex's celebration. Get out." Anger surged within me, fueled by years of neglect and rejection. I hadn't wanted to come to Alex's wedding, and yet I found myself subjected to this humiliation. "Fine, I'm leaving," I declared, my resolve firm. As I turned to exit the waiting room, a voice called out, halting my retreat. A wedding staff member approached, urgency etched on their face. "What's up?" I inquired, curiosity mingling with frustration. "It seems we have an unexpected guest for today's wedding. We're short on seats and food," they explained hurriedly, their concern evident. Everyone in the waiting room looks worried. Emily, the planner, and the parents-in-law staff, their faces etched with concern, awaited a solution. Caught between indignation and duty, I hesitated, uncertain of my next move. "I see. Is that what's going on? Emily can't handle it alone, and they're asking for my help. But what does this have to do with me?" I pondered, a torrent of grievances against Dad and Alex swirling within me. Yet amidst the resentment, memories from the past surfaced, softening my resolve. Recollections of Alex's kindness flooded my mind, the times he made space for play during our study breaks. If I walked away now, I'd be no better than Dad. With a determined sigh, I turned back to the wedding staff. "Can you take me to Emily?" I requested, a flicker of resolve in my voice. The staff member's face softened, and I followed them back into the waiting room, reclaiming the ground from which I had been expelled moments before. In the center of the room, Emily, Dad, and the bride's father wore expressions of concern. As I approached, Dad's eyes locked with mine, his demeanor bristling with hostility. "Why has Christopher returned?" he demanded, his tone sharp. Before he could escalate the confrontation, Emily intervened. "General Manager, please help us," she implored, her urgency palpable. Dad's shock was evident as I calmly revealed my position as the general manager of the hotel chain. Since joining the company during its nascent stages, we had expanded to hotels and wedding venues nationwide. The very hotel we stood in was under my oversight. "I think I can handle this," I assured them, dismissing Dad's protests with a wave of my hand. "Dad, I'm busy right now. We'll talk later." With a sense of purpose, I turned to Emily. "Relax, Emily. Get the seats and everything else ready. I'll take care of the food, I directed, watching as the tension ebbed from her features. Understood. I'll leave the food to the general manager and handle the rest, she affirmed before rushing off to execute the plan. With all eyes on me, I exited the room and sought out my friend, Chef Jackson. Hey, you in? I called out as he emerged from the kitchen. Christopher, what brings you here? He inquired, his curiosity piqued. I'm here as a guest today. My brother's wedding is happening here, but we're one meal short. Can you help? I asked Chef Jackson, hoping for a quick fix. Sure thing, I'll whip something up with my culinary skills, he replied confidently. Much appreciated. I owe you dinner. Looking forward to it, I replied gratefully. After handling a few loose ends, I returned to the waiting room. The guests had already moved to the ceremony area, leaving only my parents and the bride's parents behind. As I announced the issue was resolved, relief washed over the room. We've got an extra meal coming, I explained, seeing the tension ease from my mom's and the bride's parents' faces. My dad, however, remained conflicted, his pride evident. Christopher, thank you so much. Because of you, the celebration can go on successfully, my dad acknowledged, his gratitude genuine. It's all in a day's work as a general manager, I replied with a smile, leading the way into the ceremony hall. As the lights dimmed and the groom and bride made their entrance, I couldn't help but marvel at their radiant presence. The ceremony proceeded smoothly, and as mealtime arrived, I ensured everyone was served before finally exhaling a sigh of relief. With the ceremony concluded, I engaged in a heartfelt conversation with both families, sharing their gratitude towards me, especially from the bride's family, who thanked me profusely. These moments are why I love my job, I admitted sincerely as their expressions of gratitude warmed my heart. Christopher, thank you so much. We had the best day ever, all thanks to you, they expressed with genuine appreciation. No worries, wishing you all the happiness in the world. Thank you so much, I replied warmly before turning to face my dad and Alex. Christopher, you did wonderfully. Thank you, my mom praised, her words filled with pride. Dad and Alex wanted to speak with me. As Alex apologized first, expressing gratitude for my assistance, I couldn't help but smile. As long as I could help, Alex, it's all good, I reassured him before turning to Dad, who remained silent. With a sense of closure, I accepted their gratitude, knowing that despite our differences, we could find common ground. Just then, my cell phone buzzed, signaling more work awaiting me at the hotel in the next town over. Looks like more work, but hey, I enjoy it, so no complaints. Alright, I'm off. Got work to do. You two take care, I bid farewell, ready to embrace the challenges that lay ahead. It was a realization settling in. I probably wouldn't see Alex or Dad again. With that thought lingering, I left the room without a backward glance, my steps leading me back to work. 3 days post Alex's wedding, I relished a rare day off, reclining on the sofa with a steaming cup of coffee, my moment of bliss abruptly interrupted by the doorbell's chime. Curious as to the visitor's identity, I made my way to the door, only to be met with Alex's unexpected presence. Alex, what brings you here? I inquired, surprised by his appearance. Sorry, I got your address from Mom. Wanted to talk to you, Christopher, Alex explained, his tone tentative. I welcomed him in, brushing off any concerns about the tidiness of my home. As I poured him a cup of coffee, Alex expressed gratitude, taking a slow sip. Thank you. Smells good, he remarked, attempting a smile. As we settled into conversation, Alex's demeanor shifted, his gaze unwavering as he broached the topic at hand. The next moment he apologized, I recalled, puzzled by his sudden change in tone. I'm really sorry for everything, he admitted, catching me off guard. Initially taken aback by his unexpected apology, I struggled to comprehend his motive for making the trip in person. Hey, it's alright, Alex, I reassured him, attempting to alleviate any tension. But Alex wasn't done yet. With a sense of vulnerability, he began to share his innermost thoughts and feelings. You might think I'm the older brother who can do anything, but I envy you, Christopher, he confessed, his words striking a chord. Silence enveloped the room as Alex's confession hung in the air, leaving me at a loss for words. His admission took me by surprise, shattering preconceived notions and revealing a side of him I had never seen. I had no idea you felt that way, Alex, I admitted, a twinge of guilt gnawing at me as I processed his revelation. That's just it. It's not your fault, Christopher, Alex reassured me, his weak smile betraying a depth of emotion. In that moment, a sense of understanding washed over me, bridging the gap between us. Alex, I'm sorry. I never considered that you were struggling too. I confess, my own remorse surfacing. My brother's smile, though faint, spoke volumes. That's just it. It's not your fault, Christopher, he reassured me, his words echoing in the quiet room. With a newfound sense of empathy and connection, we found the words to express what had long been left unsaid, strengthening the bond between us. I think you've been through struggles I can't even imagine. I truly admire that. But I also want you to know about me, I confessed to Alex, feeling the weight of my words as they hung in the air. Taking a deep breath, I paused, gathering my thoughts before continuing. Alex listened intently, his silence encouraging me to share more. Breaking away from our parents and becoming independent wasn't easy either. The beginning was really tough, I admitted, recognizing the parallel struggles we both faced. It's true, we both have our share of hardships, Alex acknowledged, his response genuine. It was clear that he had more to say, but I found myself at a loss for words, unsure of how to offer guidance or reassurance. Unable to conjure up wise counsel, I spoke from the heart. To be honest, I think you should do what you really want to do, Alex, without worrying about Dad, I suggested, hoping to offer him some semblance of clarity amidst his inner turmoil. As Alex absorbed my words, a sense of relief washed over him. You're right, Christopher. You've helped clear up my inner turmoil. Thank you, he expressed, gratitude evident in his tone. No, thank you, Alex, for coming over, I replied sincerely, accompanying him to the door as he departed with a promise to return for coffee. A month later, a letter arrived from Alex, detailing his decision to leave behind his career as a lawyer in pursuit of his passion for glass craftsmanship. Despite facing disapproval from Dad, Alex found solace in the support of his wife and newfound motivation in his chosen path. As I reflected on Alex's journey and our evolving family dynamics, I couldn't help but feel a sense of pride in the bond between siblings. Lost in thought, the sound of my mobile phone's alarm jolted me back to reality, signaling the start of another day on the path I had chosen, in the job I had embraced. I apologized for the appearance of my daughter-in-law, which my mother-in-law found displeasing. During my father-in-law's 60th birthday celebration, she reprimanded me in front of our relatives, lamenting not just her lack of attractiveness, but also her perceived incompetence. It was truly humiliating. I found myself wondering where my usually supportive husband was during this ordeal. Was he occupied with our daughter? His absence was conspicuous. Upon my arrival at my in-laws' home, feeling ready to enjoy the festivities, my mother-in-law suddenly complained of chronic back pain, rendering her unable to participate. Consequently, she entrusted all party preparations to me. As the event progressed, she continued to denigrate me in front of our gathered relatives, casting a shadow over what should have been a joyous occasion. It felt as though the lively atmosphere had turned somber, resembling more of a funeral than a celebration. Then, breaking the uncomfortable silence, my father-in-law stood up. "Is that all you have to say?" Little did anyone know, this seemingly innocuous question would set off a chain of events beyond imagination. My name is Sarah, and I'm 35 years old. 6 years ago, I tied the knot with Michael, my husband, who happened to be 3 years my junior. Together, we have a delightful 5-year-old daughter. However, despite the joy of our family, there was always a shadow lurking in the form of my mother-in-law's disapproval. She harbored resentment towards me for being older than her son. Every holiday visit, be it New Year's, Memorial Day, or any national celebration, was tainted by her cutting remarks aimed at me, often in the absence of my husband. I wish I had a younger, livelier, and more attractive daughter-in-law, not someone adorned with age spots like you, she would say with a sharp tongue. Do I really look that old? Yes, very much so. Haven't you noticed your own reflection in the mirror every day? Receiving criticism about one's appearance can be deeply hurtful, especially for women. Despite this, I tried to brush it off, considering our limited interactions occurring only a few times a year. However, instead of diffusing the situation, my nonchalant response seemed to further provoke her. You're remarkably thick-skinned for a woman of your age. It's irritating how you remain unaffected by my words. You lack even a trace of humility, she continued, her words growing harsher with each exchange. Yeah, was all I could muster in response. How should I confront my mother-in-law, whose words always leave me speechless? In front of my husband, she wears a facade of kindness, concealing her true nature. It's as if he's oblivious to her mistreatment of me. Yet, if I were to express my frustrations, I fear I'd bear the blame. So, I've endured in silence. Visiting their home with her presence feels like carrying a heavy burden. Despite this, it was a significant occasion, my gentle father-in-law's 60th birthday celebration. With numerous relatives gathering for the grand event, I chose to attend. Though my father-in-law is reserved, his subtle acts of kindness envelop me when my mother-in-law's hurtful words weigh me down. He gently approaches, offering solace with his words. "Sarah, if you're struggling, please don't hesitate to confide in me. I'd like to offer my support if that's all right with you." I couldn't help but wonder if my father-in-law was aware of the harassment I endured from my mother-in-law. Perhaps he chose to refrain from openly supporting me to shield me from further mistreatment behind the scenes. To honor our compassionate father-in-law, our family embarked on a 3-hour journey early in the morning to reach our in-laws' home. Feeling a bit under the weather with a low-grade fever and lingering fatigue, I entrusted the driving to my husband, Michael. Upon arrival, my mother-in-law emerged from the front door with an air of cheerfulness. Well, look who's here. It's been a while, Michael. You should visit more often. Oh dear, you look exhausted." "I've been driving non-stop, so it's understandable," Michael replied wearily. "You've clearly put in a lot of effort. I'll prepare the bed right away. Why don't you go rest in the back room?" "That sounds like a plan, Sarah. You should rest too. You've been tending to our child in the car. You must be exhausted. Plus, you don't seem well." "Oh, Michael, you didn't know. I spoke with Sarah yesterday, and we arranged to go shopping for the 60th birthday celebration." "Sarah, you go rest. Once you've placed the luggage at the entrance, we'll head out." Of course, I couldn't recall any such arrangement, nor did I recall discussing any shopping plans. After looking after our energetic 5-year-old daughter, I felt drained. Since I wasn't feeling well, I welcomed the chance to rest. "Since Sarah isn't feeling well, let her rest. You can handle the shopping, but this is your father's special occasion. I want to pick out the finest ingredients with Sarah." "Sarah, you'll stick to our plan, won't you?" She had a knack for presenting excuses that left me no room for refusal. After dropping off the luggage, she grabbed my arm forcefully and directed me back into the car we had just exited. With an intense glare, she snapped, "You don't need rest right now." But almost instantly, her demeanor softened into a broad smile as she exclaimed, "Thank you for driving this. I really appreciate it." Knowing my mother-in-law's temperament, opposing her at that moment would likely ruin the entire day. With reluctance, I found myself settling into the driver's seat. "I'm feeling all right, Michael. You take a break. I'll accompany mother-in-law for shopping." Attempting to hand her daughter over to Michael, my mother-in-law swiftly intervened, taking the child from my arms and settling her into the child's seat before shutting the door firmly. Taking care of the child is a mother's responsibility. "Well then, Michael, we're off." As she settled into the passenger seat, her previously sweet demeanor vanished, replaced by a harsh tone as she began to chastise me. "So, you can't even manage to care for your own child? Quit relying on Michael for everything. You're nothing but an incompetent daughter-in-law, aging before your time." What was truly unsettling was her ability to maintain a sugary facade while my husband, Michael, remained within earshot, completely oblivious. "Wave goodbye to this microwave," she quipped as we embarked on the drive in my husband's unfamiliar car towards the bustling supermarket. Predictably, my mother-in-law wasted no time before launching into a lecture. "You'll regret lounging around while my son drives, mother-in-law," I retorted weakly. "Please refrain from such ominous remarks. I've been battling fever and fatigue since this morning. Your poor health stems from your lack of discipline, and your crow's feet, more pronounced. Those cheek spots, darker. It's painful to witness. Your skin has lost its former vitality," she criticized relentlessly. Drained of all energy to counter her harsh words, I merely nodded as we reached the supermarket. This is utterly exhausting. How do daughters-in-law worldwide endure such treatment from their mothers-in-law? My spirited mother-in-law sprang out of the car without a word of gratitude, immediately thrusting 2 shopping carts into my hands. "Move faster, you're so slow." Attempting to steer clear of the bustling crowds, I lagged behind, but she surged ahead, filling the carts with extravagant items like USDA prime beef, crab, salmon roe, and melons. She then proceeded to toss in unnecessary items. Mother-in-law, do we really need all of this right now? I've already decided. We're stocking up so we won't have to make frequent trips. You should have known that without my having to tell you. Feeling utterly helpless, I allowed her to dictate the shopping list. By the time we finished, the carts were overflowing. Let's head to checkout. Move quickly now. No dawdling. Despite her haste, when it was time to settle the bill at the checkout counter, my mother-in-law made no move to retrieve her wallet. Mother-in-law, the payment, I ventured. She kept her hands folded behind her back, unmoving. When I pressed her again for the money, she shot me an angry glare. You should foot the bill for everything. Excuse me, I stammered. As a wife, it's your responsibility to cater to your husband's family. Don't be miserly, just pay up. Reluctantly, I ended up covering the entire bill at the register, totaling $300. With no cash on hand, I had to charge it to my credit card. As a part-time worker trying to support my child, this financial blow hit hard. What made matters worse was that I had brought $300 as a birthday gift for my father-in-law's 60th birthday, but now I couldn't use it. This expense meant tightening our belts even further in the future, adding to the already heavy burden. I wonder how I'll break this news to Michael. If I were to speak up about this treatment, my mother-in-law might cause a scene. During the car ride home, she continued her onslaught of insults, showcasing an impressive array of verbal attacks. On our arrival home, my husband remained fast asleep, likely exhausted. Sensing an opportunity, my mother-in-law's smile widened as she began to assert her authority over me. After you've put away the groceries, go eat in the garden immediately. Could I please have a moment to rest? You have no right to defy your mother-in-law. This is the consequence of letting Michael drive alone. You brought this upon yourself, I muttered. If you have time to argue, then you have time to work. Hurry up, we're running out of time. After you've eaten, clean the bathroom and the toilet. Despite the injustice of the situation, I had no option but to endure it. Throughout the day, I toiled in the garden, pulling out weeds before tackling the grime and yellow stains in the bathroom and toilet. As I worked, I consoled myself with the thought that once the 60th birthday celebration concluded, I could enjoy some respite from my mother-in-law's presence. Just as I finished cleaning, my husband stirred from his slumber, surprised to find me still at work. Sarah, are you all right? If you're not feeling well, don't push yourself too hard. Take a break, he urged. Thank you, I'll take you up on that, I replied wearily. Ouch, that hurts. But before I could finally rest, my mother-in-law suddenly let out a piercing cry, clutching her back in agony. Despite her earlier vitality, she now complained of sudden back pain, her demeanor shifting from lively to frail in an instant. This is troublesome. My back is in excruciating pain. I can't manage anything. My chronic back issues have flared up once more. I won't be able to prepare food before our relatives arrive. Sarah, you're my only hope. But oh, what am I to do? While her distressed demeanor seemed somewhat contrived, if her chronic back pain was genuine, then standing in the kitchen would indeed be impossible for her. With a heavy heart, I entrusted my husband with our daughter's care and reluctantly began cooking. Sarah, are you certain you're all right? I'm fine. Cooking is my usual responsibility, remember? I maintained a facade of strength for my husband, though my body was already weary. However, it was a significant day for my father-in-law, and I felt compelled to soldier on. My head is spinning, and the scent of food is making me queasy. But I must persevere for my father-in-law's sake. After completing the cooking, my father-in-law entered the kitchen to check on me. You've worked tirelessly. Thank you for preparing all this food. It's my pleasure. It's all for you. Please enjoy it later. As the relatives began to gather, each offering well wishes to my father-in-law, the atmosphere became animated. After the toasts were made and we were on the verge of starting the meal, my mother-in-law uttered something utterly shocking. I regret to inform everyone that due to my chronic back pain acting up on this important birthday celebration, all the food was prepared by my daughter-in-law. I apologize for the lackluster quality of the dishes, courtesy of my unattractive daughter-in-law. Both my father-in-law and husband were stunned into silence by my mother-in-law's sudden outburst. Not only is my daughter-in-law unattractive, but she's also clumsy and utterly inept. It's truly a shame, she continued, her tone dripping with disdain. As she exaggeratedly rubbed her back, my mother-in-law persisted in belittling me. She's quite clumsy, you see. Without my assistance, she's helpless. I even question her ability to care for her own child. I worry whether Michael can cope with such a wife. What should have been a joyous occasion swiftly descended into a somber atmosphere, reminiscent more of a funeral than a celebration. My typically supportive husband, who should have been caring for our daughter, was conspicuously absent. Then, in a moment that shattered the tension, my father-in-law, who had been silently observing, rose to his feet. "Is that all you have to say?" he demanded, his voice cutting through the tension. "Seems like it. Perhaps it's time to bid farewell to the useless one," my mother-in-law added, her words dripping with contempt. In that instant, my husband strode into the room, carrying our daughter in a suitcase. His expression was unusually stern. "Dad, as you suggested, I've packed her belongings," he declared firmly. My mother-in-law's smile hinted at satisfaction. "Sarah, it appears you're being shown the door," she taunted. But to her astonishment, my husband handed the suitcase to her. "What?" My father-in-law's booming voice delivered the final blow. "Take that and leave this house immediately." Despite her initial confusion, my mother-in-law swiftly grasped the gravity of the situation. "Why am I the one being asked to leave? It's Sarah who's incompetent. The bathroom is always covered in mold, the toilet left filthy, and you dare to label Sarah as useless when you hardly lift a finger to cook. And let's not forget how terribly you've treated her. I've had my fill. It's a mother-in-law's responsibility to guide her daughter-in-law. I was merely pointing out her flaws." "Guidance. Please. Do you think we're living in?" my father-in-law began, but the raised eyebrows of an enraged father-in-law left no room for support. Realizing she wouldn't garner any sympathy from him, my mother-in-law resorted to her usual theatrics, turning to my husband and bursting into tears. "Michael, don't get the wrong idea. Someday, we might have to take care of your father, right? So, I was trying to teach Sarah how to be a good wife, as difficult as that may have been. Taking care of him, that's a joke. I won't be fooled by you anymore. You've been mistreating Sarah all along, even today." Despite feeling unwell, she still came to celebrate Dad's 60th birthday. Sarah volunteered to join the celebration, didn't she? Don't deny it. And you made her foot the bill for the groceries, didn't you? I found a receipt from today in her bag when she was trying to get candies for our daughter. It clearly shows Sarah paid with her credit card. I just asked her to pay because I didn't have any cash on me. I was planning to reimburse her later, honestly." "Really? If I hadn't noticed, you would have stayed silent about it. I've ignored the typical mother-in-law and daughter-in-law conflicts, but you've crossed a line. I'm tired of living with such a spiteful old woman." Witnessing my husband and father-in-law turn away from her, my mother-in-law reverted to her usual theatrics, blaming me with all her usual dramatic flair, tears streaming down her face. "No, I haven't vocalized it, but it's undeniable that you've been mistreating me, isn't it?" For the sake of my father-in-law and my husband, who had shown me unwavering support, I summoned the courage to speak the truth for the first time. I refused to let my mother-in-law continue to dictate the narrative. "That's correct. We were informed by Mia. We're aware of the derogatory remarks you made about Sarah at the supermarket and in the car afterward. You forced Sarah to handle all the weeding and cleaning in the house." "Yeah, Grandma was mean to Mommy. She made her clean lots of things." You can't just dismiss a child's words. Maya doesn't lie. Let's review the dash cam footage. That should clarify everything. Excellent suggestion, Sarah. I'll do that right away. Ignoring his mother's protests, Michael strode out to the parked car, starting the engine and pulling up the dash cam footage. The latest model, equipped to record both the road and the car's interior, provided crystal clear visuals, including facial expressions. "It's all there. She said those things," I murmured. "I'm appalled," echoed everyone as they watched the footage unfold. "This is utterly unacceptable. Unbelievable." Meanwhile, my mother-in-law, who had remained inside the house, adamantly denying any wrongdoing, began to panic as tension thickened, rushing barefoot toward the car. Stop this immediately. Don't watch." But no amount of shouting could halt the revelation. With all her transgressions laid bare, my mother-in-law stood speechless, stunned into silence. That's when my father-in-law casually handed her a single piece of paper. "I've filled out my portion. You just need to complete yours and submit it." "What? Is this a divorce form?" I had to prepare it just in case. I never imagined I'd have to use it. Never darken my doorstep again. Wait, I promised to change. Promises won't suffice, Sarah. Please find it in your heart to forgive me." Seeing my mother-in-law plead for forgiveness, tears streaming down her face, was a pitiful sight. But I suspected it might be yet another performance. With resolve, I gently pushed her away. "You've revealed your mistreatment of your daughter-in-law. I can never forgive you. It's best you leave before the neighbors become involved." "Oh no, this is dreadful." The commotion caught the attention of neighbors who observed from a distance. Perhaps unwilling to create a scene, she swiftly accepted the divorce papers and her suitcase, miraculously recovered from her supposed back pain, and dashed out of the garden. With the villain swiftly dealt with, our once tense home was now heavy with remorse. "I apologize for all this disruption during your 60th birthday celebration, Dad," I said sincerely, bracing for his response. "Sarah, you bear no blame. I'm the one who should apologize for all the trouble we've caused. Let's put this behind us and start anew," he replied. A smile graced my father-in-law's face. The relatives, too, looked on with sympathetic expressions. Later, they commended the dishes I had prepared and enjoyed them with gusto. In that moment, all weariness seemed to evaporate into thin air. Thus, we commemorated my father-in-law's 60th birthday in grand style. Despite her initial reluctance, my mother-in-law eventually agreed to the divorce, and it concluded amicably. It also came to light that she had been embezzling funds from my father-in-law's account, resulting in an order for her to repay $10,000 that she had spent recklessly. Struggling to secure employment due to her lack of experience, she now works as a nighttime janitor in an office building. With little money remaining, she resides in a dilapidated apartment that has seen better days. Meanwhile, I discovered that I was pregnant with my second child. The discomfort I had experienced earlier was attributed to my pregnancy. 5 months have elapsed since then, and my husband Michael has been incredibly supportive. Our ultrasound revealed that we are expecting a baby boy. Both Michael and my father-in-law eagerly anticipate his arrival, already preparing for his welcome. My father-in-law even sent over a selection of blue baby clothes. Our darling daughter is thrilled at the prospect of having a younger brother and diligently practices caring for a baby with her dolls each day. Witnessing her enthusiasm fills me with boundless joy.